Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another Dragon Ball figure news video. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know it has been a fat minute since I have uploaded one of these. I really want to start uploading more consistently on this channel, and I am going to be having a lot more time to be able to do that with the new schedule I am on. So I am pleased to announce that the figure news videos will be coming back. I'm still trying to decide on what day that I would like to do them on, but as per your guys' request, when I was talking about how I may only do just the impromptu figure news videos now and not the big 2-week-long summaries, right, where I always did bi-weekly videos of just everything that has come out in the past 2 weeks, you guys had a pretty big outcry in the comments saying that you wanted me to keep this series because you really liked the long-form videos of this. So, we're back, baby. Now, I will tell you, I do think I am going to try and kind of consolidate these a little bit, because obviously sometimes there is a ton of news, but sometimes I feel like I include things in the videos that maybe just aren't necessary sometimes, right? Or maybe I give a little bit of information that's just not like absolutely has to be in the video and kind of extends it unnecessarily. So I may try and tighten it up a little bit in terms of that. But what we are going to cover for today's video is, just in case I decide to still kind of do these over the weekend, because you all know, and originally they were supposed to go up on Sunday, and then, you know, they were going to Tuesday. Obviously this video is going up on Wednesday. We're going to start from the 14th, at least on dbzfigures.com, to kind of get back into the swing of things here. Just in case I decide for these videos to kind of be a Sunday thing, that is a good way to start from, because obviously the day that this video is going up is the 31st. So let's go ahead and get into it here. As per usual, we're going to start off on dbzfigures.com. They always give us a good summary of things that are coming up when it comes to Dragon Ball figures. Now, we have a actually pretty cool announcement here. First of all, we knew that this was coming for a while, I believe. This, of course, being the Superhero Dragon Stars Battle Pack featuring Gohan and Gamma 1. If you are not into SH Figure Arts, or if you're just looking for a solid action figure that is more of an action figure rather than, you know, a collectible high-end figure, right, this would definitely be the item for you. Obviously, you get 2 of them in the pack, and of course, you do get that little effect piece with Gohan there too, which is pretty cool, and some extra hands, as well as Gamma 1's little blaster actually being able to go out of the holster, which is kind of funny because even the SH Figure Arts one actually can't do that. The SH Figure Arts one, you actually have to use a separate piece to be able to get the effect of the holster being filled with the blaster, or the blaster actually being, you know, like in his hand, which I think is kind of funny that the Dragon Stars technically has the opportunity to be able to do that with one piece. But I digress. Very, very cool if you're into this thing, and obviously this is about like 23-ish, right? 23.5 bucks per figure. So I think for a double pack, especially with a couple of accessories there, definitely not too bad. But I think the most exciting thing to come out of the March Dragon Stars wave is this Super Baby 2 figure. Now, I actually may just get this guy just to kind of set him up with my Super Saiyan 4 Goku for the time being, because probably SH Figure Arts will make a figure of this guy at some point. Obviously, they've kind of been drip feeding us GT a little bit, right, within the past couple of years. But it hasn't been anything to the extent of, you know, like consistent GT figures. And they obviously don't like to do villains as often. I know for me, I actually own the Dragon Stars Janemba just because I was like, dang, when the heck are they ever going to make an SHF Janemba? So I have that, and low-key, I may get this guy just to serve the same purpose. And to be honest with you, he actually looks really, really good. Of course, you know, it is a Dragon Stars figure, so it looks a little bit more toy-esque. And of course, it is only one faceplate. Dang, my boy Fenyo cooked with the art on this box. Holy cow. But I think he will do the job if you are honestly just looking for a baby figure to have on your shelf. It sounds so funny out of context saying that. But I digress. Yes, Super Baby 2, obviously the Dragon Stars line is known for being around the $20-25 mark for their figures, so this is honestly a pretty good cop if you are looking for a Super Baby 2 action figure, since I'm sure that Tamashii will probably take a fat minute for them to actually release one. But yeah, it's actually going to be coming out in March. So, and the cool thing about Dragon Stars is you are actually able to find these in your local retailers as well. Target, GameStop, all that kind of stuff should have those. So definitely look forward to that. Now, we did get a couple of Dragon Ball Weekly news in the time that these were obviously kind of cooking, right, in the time that I'm covering for the past 2 weeks to kind of get us back on track here. Basically, the only thing, ironically enough, that they talked about is that these bad boys would be coming out. Now, I swear we talked about these in some capacity before, but this is a new Gashapon line of these sitting Dragon Ball characters, which is honestly pretty funny here. As far as I remember, these are from actual moments in the show, which is kind of funny that they're actually references to stuff and not just like Dragon Ball figures sitting there. As far as the boy Shinra is aware, there isn't really like a place that you can just get these. Obviously, I'm sure that someone on eBay, right, like a Japanese user, has probably listed these for people in the States to be able to go in and cop these bad boys. But as far as it goes with our usual retailers that we cover on this channel, right, most likely they probably won't get them, because a lot of the time those type of figures, right, Gashapon figures specifically, aren't really brought to the West like that as much, unfortunately. But obviously, if anything develops, right, when I cover these bi-weekly figure news videos, I'll let you know, because these are actually pretty cute. Obviously, with them being Gashapon, they will be very, very small, so these are perfect little desk figures if you need something for your desk like that. History Box Gohan. So right here, this week's figure showcase. Oh, I see. Okay, interesting. That's pretty cool that he's been doing this, I guess. He's just been doing like a weekly figure showcase. Obviously, we took a look at this guy a little bit before, but if you want to, you can pre-order this guy on Big Bad Toy Store, and of course, he is coming out in March. See, that's one of those things that maybe like in the future I can maybe eliminate from the video, you know what I'm saying? All right. Moving on to our first page. The only other new thing from Dragon Ball Weekly News was just another little picture of the boys here, of these little sitting figures. And honestly, they do look pretty cool. Now, in terms of what's going to be the bulk of this video, we are moving on to our monthly prize figures as well as Ichiban Kuji. We're going to go from prize figure to Ichiban Kuji back to prize figures here, just because that's kind of the order of things. These were some figures that in my time not doing these videos that I actually did not get to cover, so I am glad that I'm going to get to cover them now. If you guys remember from when I was doing these videos before, we have been going through the Solid Edgeworks line with the Ginyu Force, and we now have the Ginyu Force figures for the boy Birder. And obviously the next one we're going to look at is Raccoon. Of course, previously we already took a look at Ginyu, and we already took a look at Jace as well. But as they have been obviously kind of pumping these out slowly, you know, we have seen this image for quite a long time, but obviously we haven't seen the full thing, right? Or, well, I guess like the individual figures, I should say, because we've obviously seen the full thing for a minute. But I would say that Birder actually looks really good. I'm not going to lie. He actually looks pretty solid. Maybe his teeth look a little bit thick, but I think overall he honestly looks pretty good in terms of the sculpt, right? And obviously this is going to be super cool if you do get all of these Ginyu Force characters as well. Obviously we do have Raccoon, who also looks really, really good, right? I think they did a fantastic job sculpting these guys. His giant mouth fits him well, because obviously he literally fires a blast out of his mouth, so that's pretty funny. Yeah, looks very good if I do say so myself, right? The cool thing about all of these figures too is this is a relatively cheap option to be able to recreate, I guess, just a giant Ginyu Force scene, right? Because obviously by this point, we have a couple of different options when it comes to the Ginyu Force, right? If you want a full selection of characters, right? We have the Dramatic Showcase, which is a really old figure set, but it is the full Ginyu Force at play, so there is that, right? We also have these guys, right? Obviously, the Solid Edgeworks version, but there is also that Ichiban one that we covered. Ooh, boy, was that last year or 2 years ago now? Obviously, with all of them standing there. So there are plenty of options for just straight up Ginyu Force sets. And I will say, obviously, this one will be a decent-ish size, right? Obviously, it is Banpresto, but more recent Banpresto figures have been a little bit on the smaller side, but it'll still be a very cool setup. And the nice thing about this is that it will be relatively cheap. Obviously, the standard price nowadays for these Banpresto figures is about 27 bucks. So you obviously just times that by 5. And that is kind of expensive, but I'm telling you right now that Ichiban Kuji set is probably double or triple the price if you times this by 5, which is kind of crazy to think about, to be 100% honest with you. But yeah, pretty cool. And then as well, this is the next GX Materia figure, a Android 18, which is pretty cool. Now, I will say the one thing that is kind of unfortunate, because of course this figure does look pretty good, right? I think overall the sculpt on this definitely looks very nice. Obviously, it's the boy Varquo. Still don't know how to pronounce his name. Almost tripped up on it. I haven't said that little meme in a fat minute. But obviously, it is a good-looking figure, right? And I do like that they chose this outfit for 18, because obviously this is an outfit that we like literally never get. I don't even think I can think of an Android 18 figure that has this outfit. But the really unfortunate thing about this is if we just search Krillin GX Materia, I spelled GX Materia wrong, on the Big Bad Toy Store. Oh, it's not. Is it really not going to come up? The unfortunate thing about that figure right there is, yeah, I guess they don't have it, that the GX Materia Krillin has the exact same effect piece as this Android 18, right? Obviously, both of them are doing the Destructo disc here, so it's pretty clear to see that, as unfortunate as this is, right, it's weird how I feel about this, because, like, on one hand, I think it's pretty cool to get an Android 18 figure doing the Destructo disc like this, but on the other hand, this is a unfortunate certified lazy moment when it comes to Bandai, right? Because obviously this is classic Bandai spirits, with them basically just, you know, making a figure almost too specifically just be able to reuse some old parts that they have from other figures, which is kind of unfortunate, right? Because obviously this Android 18 could have been so many other things, right? And obviously the GX Material line is such a fantastic figure line that it's kind of a shame to see it sort of, you know, put to this, unfortunately. But, like, at the same time, right, I'm also excited about it because it's cool to get an Android 18 doing the Destructo disc. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments section below on this one. I would love to hear what you guys have to think. Obviously, you guys know that I am always not a fan of Bandai reusing stuff like this. So obviously, in that regard, it is quite frustrating. But at the same time, if you're going to make another figure with doing the Destructo disc, I understand why they would do it, but it feels more like a decision to me of they made the figure just to justify reusing the sculpt or reusing some of the leftover parts they had from Krillin, rather than wanting to make a Destructo Disc 18 figure. Obviously, it's nothing against the boy Varquo. Still don't know how to pronounce his name, because obviously he's not the one who's choosing the pose or anything like that. They just, you know, basically make him sculpt it, right? This is, of course, a decision on Bandai's front. Now, with all that being said, obviously I still am pretty excited for this figure because it is pretty cool. And it will be actually pretty neat to be able to display these two next to each other. Even though it doesn't really make sense, because obviously this is Armor Krillin from Namek. And this is, of course, 18 from nowhere near that era. But I digress. It is still pretty cool. Now, we move on to the Dragon Ball versus Omnibus Amazing. Now, obviously, this is a set that has basically dropped the most recent in terms of Ichiban Kuji stuff. There is actually one more Kuji set that did drop kind of recently, but I did talk about that in a previous figure news video, so I did give my thoughts there. That set is available to pre-order. If you Gohan, I forgot I didn't open these guys in a new tab. That set is available to order if you do want that now. At this point, unfortunately, the LO is not available for that guy. Obviously, right, we're talking about the set that is this one, right, the Dueling to the Future. The unfortunate thing about this is that obviously when I recorded that video, we didn't know that this was going to be the case, but the LO of the Angel Goku is not going to be coming to the States, unfortunately. This set sold out really crazily, though. Holy cow. Also, this is a great price for this Vegeta. But anyhow, moving back to this newest set, this is probably the thing in more recent Dragon Ball figure news that I have actually looked at the least, to be 100% honest with you. There really it hasn't just been much like talking about this set. I feel like I've seen a couple of people talk about it, but let's actually get into it here. So, the good people at Ichiban Kuji just announced the next Dragon Ball vs. Omnibus titled Amazing, featuring figures from the Saiyan arc as well as the Cell arc. The Goku holding Gohan figure looks very similar to the X Plus Gigantic Series version, right, which we've seen before. If you've watched my videos for a long time, you would know that I actually covered that figure a really long time. That is actually kind of a grail figure of mine, to be honest. I would love to get that thing someday. But would be interesting to see a comparison between the two. Obviously, when these actually drop, hopefully somebody will give us that. This is scheduled to release in Japan in the latter part of May 2024. So, the other thing to keep in mind with this set, besides obviously that we're going to look at these figures in a second in more detail, is that this was actually the set that featured the #1 Piccolo moment from Piccolo Day. If you guys remember, they had a little bit of a vote where fans could vote for their favorite Piccolo moment, and it would get turned into merch when Piccolo Day was going on. And it seems that the Piccolo protecting Gohan moment from the Saiyan Saga won, giving us a very fantastic figure. Let's go ahead and actually get into the figures here. So let's go ahead and just look at these bad boys in order. We'll just open up all of our tabs here. By the way, I know this might be kind of crazy to say, but I think I am actually the most excited for Raditz. So let's get into it here. Obviously, we have the Ichibansho, Goku, and Gohan. I will say, this is, of course, a cheaper option than the X Plus figure, right? If we go to, actually here, I'll open this in a new tab for you just so I can show you what I'm talking about. This Goku has obviously had a few different figure iterations over time, but as it stands, I think at the moment this will end up being probably the cheapest version of this particular pose. Now, with that being said, as much as I kind of hate to say this, I am not a fan of this guy's face, unfortunately. I can't really put my finger on it, besides, I guess, the mouth being a little bit too wide. I think it's a little bit too big on his face. His eyes are maybe a little bit too big too, but honestly, I think it's more so just the mouth. The mouth is too big on his face. Gohan doesn't even really look that bad, to be 100% honest with you, but I definitely think that Goku just looks a little bit weird in the facial area. Like, it's not terrible, and it is the expression, but it's just slightly off to me. We also, right, talking about this guy, do have the Gigantic Series 1, which of course is from Plex, right? Obviously, this guy being from the Gigantic Series is, well, gigantic. Go figure. Look how big this guy is. I will say, his face, I don't think, is perfect either. It almost feels a lot more like cartoony or like an artist's rendition of the face of somebody who like custom sculpted this statue, right? Where it's maybe just a little bit of a different artistic choice. Whereas I do kind of feel like that this guy's face is just a little off to me. It will be interesting to see when the figure obviously actually releases how his face will look. But unfortunately, right, we've been kind of going back and forth with the Ichiban Kuji pricing for a little bit now, and we were hoping that with some of the Kujis that we've been getting in recent time, maybe, just maybe, they would be keeping these figures at a bit of a more decent price. But as you can see here, this guy is going to remain at the $50 mark. Obviously, when we were just looking at the last Ichiban Kuji set, you know, we know that, of course, you know, some of those were still a little bit more expensive too. But you know, with all of that being said, it is still just a little bit unfortunate whenever I see this price tag on a figure like this. Moving on, we have the boy Raditz, and unfortunately, he also has the $50 price tag. But I will say, this is actually a pretty exciting release, to be 100% honest with you. I know Raditz in recent time has certainly kind of become a bit of a fan favorite character, but I will tell you, in terms of Raditz figures, right, crazily enough, we kind of have another situation. Let me pull this up for you in another tab here. We kind of have another situation where this guy is actually going to be the cheapest option of a character that you can pretty much get your hands on when it comes to, obviously, kind of like the Ichiban Kuji scale, right? Of course, there is a SH Figuarts Raditz, right? I think he actually has 3, if I'm remembering that correctly. But there is the Dragon Ball Arise Raditz, funny enough, made by the same company, or at least one of the companies that is involved with it, that made the Gigantic series, right? That being Plex. This Raditz figure right here, right? And he also does have a different color variation a little bit, which then comes with the boy Farmer, which is pretty cool. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a different color or if it's just the fact that it comes with Farmer, because the color actually looks almost exactly the same to me, to be honest with you. I think it might just be that he comes with Farmer. But regardless, though, obviously this figure is disgustingly priced at 27,000 yen, right? Obviously that, like, kind of equating, I think that'd be like 250 bucks if I'm doing that off the top of my dome, right? Obviously, for some reason, it's the same price even with or without Farmer. I don't know how that works. But since this guy is so expensive, basically until recently, at least as far as I'm aware, he was basically the only Raditz figure, right, that you could get at relatively that scale, right? Obviously, again, there's been Ichiban Kuji figures and, you know, minifigures and Funko Pops and stuff like that. And, of course, right, the minifigures with the WCFs. But in terms of this scale, this boy is it. So if you are a Raditz fan, honestly, I would not blame you for picking this guy up. Is he worth $50? Obviously, that will kind of be to be told when we actually get to it. One thing I will say, though, is I kind of don't like the way that his hair parts like that here. Like, it's almost a little bit parted there and then, like, shorter at this section. I don't know. It's kind of weird how the hair parts itself. Like, if we go back to the Plex figure, you can see that it's a lot more, like, lush, almost. There's a lot more of it, right? He kind of looks more like a hedgehog in this picture. Whereas this one, it looks a little bit more like, I don't know, unkept. Which, to be fair, is very fitting for the boy Raditz, and is very fitting for the Saiyans. But let me know what you think about it. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's an interesting choice, right? $50 for that bad boy Raditz. At the $35 mark, we are actually getting this really cool Gohan. I'm not going to lie, this is actually pretty sick. Obviously, with Kid Gohan bursting out of the destroyed Saiyan pod. This is a great idea for a figure, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that they're throwing this in an Ichiban Kuji, because I feel like this almost belongs in another line with sort of like a diorama type of thing. But hey, right, it looks really good, and as you can see, this is actually a Masterlize Plus, which is kind of interesting, obviously because I'm assuming of the Saiyan pod. And it is actually a decent size. As you can see, it is 7.5 inches tall, right? If we look at Raditz, he's 9.8, and if we look at Goku, he's also 9.8. Now, keep in mind, we can never trust the sizes of these figures because obviously they're not always accurate. But I would say for a small Gohan figure, right, that's pretty decently sized, all things considered, right? I may actually consider picking this guy up because this is just a really cool figure in general, right? I really, really like this. And this would be great for a Saiyan Saga setup for sure. 35 bucks obviously is a lot more reasonable, but that's also because this is so much of a smaller figure than Raditz and Goku. Now, we move on to the big kahuna himself, the Piccolo and Gohan, right? Now, this guy looks fantastic, if I do say so myself. Obviously, this is such an iconic moment in Dragon Ball history, so I would hope that they would do this justice. And by golly, I would say that they did for sure, right? There is a ton of detail packed into this thing. If we look at just Piccolo, right, you can see that they included the purple Namekian fruit punch. I guess this would be more like grape punch in this case, right? The tattered clothes look fantastic. Piccolo's bulking muscles look great. And I love that they actually included the detail of his clenched teeth. And they included the detail of his eyes being like just basically a little, you know, circle, essentially, right? Because obviously he just took the full brunt of that attack. I think the sculpt on the figure is awesome. And not to mention, right, if we go before we go to Gohan here, the veins are popping as well. You can kind of see them coming out of the top of his head. But Gohan here, too, also looks sculpted very, very nice, right? Obviously, this is going to be a lot smaller of a figure that is supposed to go on display behind Piccolo. But I think Gohan looks good here, right? Definitely very well sculpted. And I would say that this is a lot more of a fair price to charge, right, than for Goku and Raditz, right? Because obviously, I understand that with Goku, you could kind of make the argument that maybe it's like two figures, because obviously Gohan is so small that they really couldn't make him his own figure. So, of course, they have to attach him to Goku. Raditz has no excuse, though. But with this guy, you are getting two figures in this, right? You are getting this Gohan and the Piccolo, right? So, with that being said, right, if you think about it like this, right, 35 bucks for Piccolo, right, and then 15 bucks for Gohan, right, that adds to, I'm pretty sure that math is correct, right? That would be 50 bucks right there. That, to me, seems like a lot more of a reasonable price. That's what I'm saying. I feel like Bandai just doesn't think about their pricing. I swear they must just not put that much thought into it. Like, half the time, I swear they just throw darts at a dartboard that has a bunch of prices on it, and then pick a price depending on whatever lands on a bullseye. Like, some of these just don't make sense, right? Obviously, when we were taking a look at that last set, because if we look here, right, the only one that makes sense for him to be that price is Cell. Because Cell was around that price when he initially came out the first time, right? The first version of him where he has his arms crossed. So, like, that's fair, right? But Trunks, Hercule, and Vegeta, right, and Gohan are all, like, around the same size, right? So why is Vegeta $5 cheaper than Gohan? And then, like, Trunks and Hercule are $2 more expensive than Gohan. I just don't understand it, right? It just doesn't make any sense. It's not like there's any extra accessories or something like that. And obviously, this is a lot less egregious than even some of the sets we've gotten in previous time, right? Like if we look at that Kuji Frieza that we got recently, these prices are also all over the place, right? Goku and Frieza, 50 bucks. Gohan and Bulma, 54. And then Piccolo being 80 makes a little bit more sense, but it's still just very nonsensical, because obviously these are all like around the same size. So why are these $5 more? I guess it's just because they're the more popular characters right now. And well, Gohan Beast is, and obviously Bulma has not gotten this outfit like almost ever as a figure. So maybe that's why. Just kind of a strange thing. Regardless, though, moving back to this Ichiban Kuji set, I do think that this is actually a decent price for Piccolo. So I would honestly recommend picking this up if you are a fan of this scene. I would say that this is actually a decent price, and I hope that maybe Bandai could think about these things more, right? I would not mind paying a little bit more for this type of thing while having Raditz be 35 bucks, because to me, that just makes a lot more sense. Now, interestingly enough, despite all of the Saiyan Saga stuff in this particular set, we also have Cell Saga for some reason. We have Super Vegeta here, which I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this figure. It's definitely the face, right? I think the face just looks very off. We have gotten a couple of Super Vegeta figures recently. We, funny enough, got the CLEARISE one where I believe he's doing this exact same pose, which looks a little bit less like Super Vegeta than this one, because obviously this guy is just jacked out of his mind, which of course is fitting for Super Vegeta. But by golly, what did they do to my man's mug? He just looks so strange. I don't know. Maybe the final product will look a little bit better, but as it stands, I feel like his face just looks very ugly to me. Also, for some reason, I feel like the armor is too square, but maybe that's being a little bit too nitpicky. It just looks kind of off to me for some reason. Regardless, though, this guy is $45, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand that he's 8.7, but these guys, right, 9.8, so it justifies them being $5 more? I don't know. And Vegeta's obviously crouching down, too, so it's not like he's standing all the way up. Kind of weird. But in terms of a $50+ figure here, right, we have this bad boy standing at 10.6 inches tall, the second form Cell. Now, I gotta say, this guy actually looks fantastic, if I do say so myself. I definitely like second form Cell, I think the least out of all the Cell forms, but obviously this is a pretty iconic moment in the Cell saga, and not to mention, this is just a pretty good looking figure, right? I might actually pick this guy up just so I can have all the forms of Cell on the shelf, right? I still have to get that previous Ichibansho Imperfect Cell. I kind of didn't like that figure though. I might try and find another Imperfect Cell figure to yeah, Imperfect Cell. I was thinking that this guy's name of that. No, this is Semi-Perfect Cell. How can you be semi-perfect? Anyway. This guy looks really good. I think the only thing that I could critique about this guy is that his legs do look a little bit long. He kind of got that one-piece leg kind of thing going on, where they're just extremely elongated. Maybe the figure won't really look like that in person, and it won't look as little weird, but he definitely does look a little bit lanky, I would say. But I think that this is not a terrible price for this guy, right? The original Cell was around the same size, right? The first, masterized Cell that we got, the one with his arms crossed. That one was $50, so I think 53, obviously, they've been raising the prices on these bad boys for a little bit now. I don't think that this is necessarily a terrible price for this guy, because obviously they charged 50 before, and usually the figures that are around a foot tall, right, for Ichibansho or taller, they tend to charge $50 for those anyway, so I don't think that this is a awful price, to be 100% honest with you. But yeah, let me know what you think of this full set in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. By the way, a very, very cool thing about this, right, besides obviously the fact that this is coming out in May and we will be getting these figures in August stateside, is that this guy, the Cell, is actually a last one prize figure, right? If you are unfamiliar with the logistics of Ichibansho, to give you kind of a TLDR, not too long of an explanation, the last one prize figure is basically the rarest figure when you go to play in Ichibansho in Japan, because it's a lottery system where you basically go into a store that's like a convenience store, kind of like a 7-Eleven over here in the States, right? And you go buy a lottery ticket and you have a chance to win one of these figures. Every store only gets one of the last one prize figure, and when they import these over here, right, and give us the overseas versions where we can just straight up buy them from like Amazon and obviously retailers like Big Bad Toy Store, they barely ever give us that last one figure. So it's really cool that we are getting it for Cell, and they have kind of been doing this a little bit more in recent time. That's why it was such a shame that that Angel Goku that was the last one prize figure for the last announced Ichibansho didn't get one, especially considering this bad boy Cell here is. But hey, I am all for us getting more figures like this, right? I am definitely down for that. So hopefully they continue on this trend. That is it for everything on DBZFigures.com, though. Of course, I will always leave a link to everything that we cover in this video in the description below. So definitely go check them out. Obviously, they do a great job at kind of recapping the basically like weekly and, just everyday news, right, in a nice little summarized format for you. Now, I do want to talk about the last thing that we have for today. we got announced the next batch of prize figures when it comes to Bam Presto, right? And obviously there has been a lot of pretty cool things announced. One thing that I do want to highlight that isn't Dragon Ball, just before we get into, obviously I know what I've kind of been teasing this entire time from, you know, the title of the video, because obviously the last Bam Presto batch before this in terms of Dragon Ball was Birder and Android 18, right, which we obviously covered earlier in this video. Grandista is actually making a comeback in the form of the One Piece Grandista Roanoa Zoro. Is that how you say Zoro's first name? I've never been able to pronounce that properly. Now, what's really interesting about this is obviously it's not in the typical Grandista posing, which is basically just the straight up and down neutral pose. Obviously, this guy is in a little bit more of a dynamic action pose. So, it will be really interesting to see if they bring back Grandista for the Dragon Ball line as well. Just wanted to throw this in here because obviously Grandista is one of my favorite figure lines. And if you've been collecting figures for a while, you would know that it's one of the best in terms of Dragon Ball figures, right? I would highly recommend anybody getting into figure collecting to collect the Grandista line because it's just so fantastic. So they have not made a figure from this line in a fat minute. So I'm really actually pretty excited about this, even though this isn't a figure that I will be buying. And obviously it seems to be in the same scale of the previous Grandista scale, obviously though in a little bit more of a dynamic pose. So it will be interesting to see how this guy actually fares when it comes to him releasing. He'll be coming out in July. But besides that, right, very cool that we're actually getting some Yu-Gi-Oh! Prize figures now. Of course, before I talk about the two big kahunas that are on the thumbnail of this video, we have Guldo. Woo! Now, I know you might be thinking, oh, cool, which is fair, because it is the boy Guldo. But I will say, with the release of Guldo, we are finally done with the Ginyu Force Solid Edgeworks figures. So now, I am assuming that the Solid Edgeworks line will probably move on to some other characters. So it'll be interesting to see what is in store next for this line. I am actually really curious to hear what will be next on the chopping block, because obviously Solid Edgeworks has been doing a pretty good job as of late. But besides that fact, Guldo himself does look pretty good, right? Nothing too crazy to complain about. And oh, what's this? Yes, it turns out that with Guldo, I am assuming to kind of, I love this picture by the way, to kind of compensate for obviously this guy being the smallest figure in the bunch, and of course he is still the same price, they are actually throwing in this little Ginyu Force stand here, which is honestly pretty cool, right? I would much rather them do something like this, right, to justify charging the same amount than either just not including some accessory at all or doing something like Android 18 where they just kind of reuse something from before. I don't know how that would really apply to the Ginyu Force, but kind of in this case. Regardless, though, I like this quite a bit. Obviously, if you then end up getting the entire set of figures, right, this would be great to display in front of Ginyu himself and then have the little Ginyu Force logo there. So I think that is a super cool addition to this particular set. I don't know. I definitely want to get this. I might wait until I can maybe find these guys for cheaper somewhere, because this isn't a set that I like absolutely need to have this very moment. But it is something that I would like in my collection because I don't really have any Ginyu Force figures, I don't think. So regardless though, this is really cool, right, that they are including this little thing here. And the other thing that is kind of interesting about this image, by the way, let me see if I can find it. Now, as you can see here in this image on Baggy's Twitter, where funny enough, the whole purpose of this image is to actually compare this to that dramatic showcase set of Ginyu Force figures that I was talking about from ages ago, right? As you can see here, they actually have a special Ginyu Force base, where you can see that all of the figures fit onto this one base that is the Ginyu Force logo. First of all, that is just so incredibly cool, and that also explains this weird thing up here, which obviously you can see kind of looks like chocolate because it looks sort of like a brown color in this particular image, but it's supposed to be the plastic that is on the bottom of this that goes to this entire Ginyu Force set. Now, I will say, with that being said, it's a little confusing on this image because they call this special pedestal is included, right? Which is obviously what this is, right? Because clearly it's in this production image. But this image is also here with Guldo, where they have this little Ginyu Force stand, right? And they make no mention of another, like, piece. Like, if we look at the product description here, right? You can see that it says Guldo figure and pedestal, right? So, I guess I'm not sure now if this is a separate piece that you get in the box that's this little Ginyu Force stand thing, or if this is just supposed to be showing like a colored version of what the pedestal will look like. I would think it would be a little bit deceptive to kind of include this image in here if there also wasn't going to be this little stand with the Ginyu Force logo on it. And not to mention, obviously, it looks different, right? It has this little white part at the bottom, and of course, it's not split down the middle because, you know, they have to be able to fit it in the box, so that's why it's split down the middle there, as you can see. But, right, obviously, it's also a little bit, like, skinnier in terms of the ring, right, in comparison to this one. So, comment section, if you got any info about this one, let me know, because I am pretty confused, all things considered, on this one. But that is Guldo. So regardless, you will be getting some pretty cool stuff. Raditz jump scare. You will be getting some pretty cool stuff if you do decide to pick this guy up. And obviously, if you do want to get the full Ginyu Force set, I will definitely do a video on all of these figures at once if I do decide to actually get, you know, the entire set. By the way, I do want to note on this other production image here, the way that they do show it, and I just looked this up just in case I could find some more info, is they just show him next to this little thing, which is funny that they call this, right, the pedestal, when I would think this would be more like a pedestal and this would be more like a base. So, yeah, if you got any info on this, comment section, let me know, because this is extremely unclear to me, to be honest with you. Now, finally, I know you all have been waiting. We're moving on to the two big kahunas of this video. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Somehow, by the big man's grace, I am getting my two favorite transformations in the history of Dragon Ball in 1 month when it comes to prize figures. And not to mention, from two figure lines that have been absolutely killing it. We, first of all, oh my gosh, dude, look at him. Look at him. We have the BOS Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I have been dying for a Super Saiyan 3 Goku figure to come out in recent time. I'm going to be honest with you. So much so that I have bought 5 different variations of a Super Saiyan 3 figure from Kong Studios, a third-party Dragon Ball figure company. So boy, am I glad to see this bad boy on my screen. Holy cow, this guy is sick. Ironically enough, right below this image on my computer, I have the original SH Figure Arts Super Saiyan 3 Goku stanced up in this exact pose. Obviously, this is a super iconic one, of course, right from when Goku first transformed in front of Majin Buu. Very, very cool, obviously, choice on this one, right? I know it is a little bit of a shame, because I know Baggy and I were kind of hoping a little bit when, of course, Super Saiyan 3 was teased on the calendar for figures coming out from the BOS line so many months ago now at this point, that it would be like a battle damage Super Saiyan 3, right? Obviously with like the torn shirt, but I do really, really like this figure a lot. Obviously, the BOS line is a fantastic one, too, in terms of the sculpt. They usually always nail it, and I think that is definitely no different here. As well, I think, of course, the gimmick with the BOS line, with that being the shiny paint on the hair, because that's just what this line is known for, they did a really good job, and it fits the figure really well, if I do say so myself. Dude, this shot right here is so gas. Oh my gosh. I am really excited for this guy. If we take a look down here, he is going to be about 7.5 inches tall. Now, as per usual, we always talk about the fact that they're not including the height of the stand sometimes, and sometimes not the height of the hair. I know it makes no sense at all, but that's just why you can never trust the heights when it comes to these Dragon Ball figures, right? So he may end up actually being a little taller than that, because obviously in these images it looks like he's floating, but they quite literally just photoshopped out the stand that would be holding him up here, right? Now, obviously, his hair is going to give him a little bit extra too, so, you know, we'll have to see how big he actually ends up being. But I am very, very, very excited for this guy, right? Obviously, being the standard $26.99 in terms of the Modern Bam Presto prize figure price. I will definitely be picking this guy up, and crazily enough, just like I said a couple minutes prior to talking about my boy Super Saiyan 3 Goku, my other favorite form, right, that may have even overtaken Super Saiyan 3 somehow. I still love Super Saiyan 3, but man, maybe it's just because it's new and I'm still riding that high, but the boy Gohan Beast. That's right, my man is getting another figure, which is awesome because obviously we do have a couple figures of this boy, but I am really trying to find the definitive Gohan Beast figure that is the one that I could recommend to anybody, right? It has to be a little bit more easily accessible. The sculpt has to be good. The paint job has to be good. I, for my money, would definitely pick the SH Figure Arts one, but I can't just recommend that to people so easily because obviously some people prefer statues over articulated figures. I like both, but it's also kind of hard to find at this point because it was a premium Bandai figure. And this guy may just be the definitive Gohan Beast. We will have to see when he releases, obviously. But this figure comes to us. Dude, I love this special production image from the CLEARISE line. Now, obviously, the colors are going to be really desaturated on these images. Don't worry, it won't look like that on the actual figure. But the other reason why it does look a little bit desaturated is because of the gimmick with the CLEARISE line. The whole thing with the CLEARISE line is that the figure is made from this little bit more clear plastic material, right? Where the whole object is, I don't want to call it light piping because it's not exactly that like on other figures where they have a little part where you can kind of shine a light through it and then it will make something else glow, but like sort of the same thing. Basically, the idea is that you shine a light through this guy. If you look on these images, they kind of do a little bit of a better job illustrating it where you can see his hair kind of glows and then you can see the bottom of his pants are glowing a little bit. Obviously, there too is a good example of it, right? Where his hair is obviously a lot more brighter than those darkened images because they are shining a light through the figure. Now, the thing that I really want to go over about this guy, and here's a little bit of a brighter image, is I think the sculpt on this guy is next to perfect, right? The body is very simple, right? But it's nothing too crazy. What my biggest focus is the face sculpt. I think that in terms of all the Gohan Beast figures that we have gotten in terms of these prize figures thus far, this guy has the best sculpt. Now, obviously, when it comes to these production images, you always have to take these with a grain of salt because the final figure half the time looks different from the actual production image. But if they can keep it looking like this, it will be fantastic. And they also have a very good hair sculpt on this guy. The interesting thing, by the way, if we go to a little bit of a comparison for this guy that I already had pre-pulled up here, is, of course, right, taking a look at this guy next to the Solid Edgeworks Gohan Beast, which, by the way, I will be getting that figure in pretty soon and doing a video on it, so definitely look forward to that. But it's very interesting because you can see that they actually changed the way that Gohan's hair is sculpted, right? If we're going to be getting the same sculptor surprises, then it's nice to see the changing of styles. Yeah, because the boy Joe, a figure sculptor that is pretty well known, funny enough, he's actually on Twitter, is the one who's sculpting both of these figures. And if we take a look at the hair for this, you can see that the sculpt is clearly different. It's kind of interesting because both of these figures encapsulate the main two ways that I have seen Gohan Beast's hair kind of sculpted or just depicted in most official art and even fan art to an extent of Gohan Beast, right? This version where the hair is a lot more puffed out, right? All of the different pieces of hair kind of lead it to more of like a, how do I describe this? Like, it's almost kind of like the shape of if you glued a, like the top of a wine glass or like a mug, sort of like a hot chocolate mug, right, where it's a little bit more round, like a teacup. That's the shape that I'm thinking of, kind of following that general like geometry. Obviously I know that might not make sense because of course it's a bunch of spikes, but I'm kind of speaking about the general shape. It sort of goes out, right, it spreads out very far to the sides of his head, whereas with this sculpt, right, where funny enough, I feel like the SH Figure Arts one kind of has a little bit of a mix of this, but goes for more of this look, where the hair is kind of tapered in a little bit. It doesn't kind of puff out a little bit more to the sides of his head, and it kind of sticks in a little bit more to almost kind of form more of like a cone shape rather than spiking outward, right? I like both versions, right? I don't think that there's one that I necessarily like prefer over the other. I guess maybe this one a little bit because I just like big and wild hair. I mean, maybe that's why I like Beast and Super Saiyan 3 so much, because they both have ridiculous hair. But I definitely don't mind this look for the character whatsoever, right? I think it still looks really, really good. And funny enough, every time I've seen the hair depicted like this, they always have the big hair spike like this, right? Even the SH Figure Arts one has that too, right? Whereas this one, it's still kind of there, but it's not as prominent because the hair is so flowing and puffed out, whereas this one is more tapered in. That top spike is a lot more prevalent on the figure. So regardless, though, it is very nice to see this figure look so well sculpted, and that close-up of the face, dude, oh my gosh, it looks next to perfect in my opinion. So we'll see. I was kind of thinking that this guy might be the definitive Beast, although when the full images of this guy actually did drop, I kind of didn't like the face as much as on the production images. So I'm hoping and praying that this guy actually ends up looking as good as he does in these production images. The last two things that I have for you, I should have talked about this with the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but I figured that this would be interesting to throw in here, just in relevance to Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So, from June, the BOS Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the special, has been dropped from the title. So the April Special XX UI Goku will be the last special. If you are unfamiliar, right, basically, right, if we go back to Super Saiyan 3 Goku here, he is just called, you know, BOS Super Saiyan 3 Goku. What they've kind of been doing with the naming convention of the BOS figures for a while is they've been calling them BOS Special, and then basically the number of the figure in Roman numerals, right? First BOS was December 2017. First Special was October 2018, right? With this guy being the first BOS figure, and then this guy being the first BOS Special figure. Also, BOS was originally titled Legend of Gold. Interesting, before DBS forms were planned. That is pretty cool. Makes sense, because obviously all the Super Saiyan forms were gold at the time. But very interesting, though, to see that they're now kind of going to drop all of that, right? With the Roman numerals and everything, and basically just go for, hey, you know, this is the figure, and it's from the BOS line. Which I think, honestly, makes a little bit more sense, because all things considered, even us figure collectors, nobody was calling it the BOS Special XIV, you know, whatever it was for that figure. It would just be the BOS, you know, Kaioken Goku or whatever. Regardless, though, the final thing that I have to talk about in this video is that the jump calendar for quarter 3 schedules is less than 24 hours away. You can see that this was tweeted today at 4:49 a.m. my time, which is Central Time. Seeing Broly and Gogeta do well, I'd like to hope we can see some more DBS stuff and some long-awaited characters that can easily be paired with safe Saiyan characters like Gohan and Trunks. Obviously, we have not gotten an actual Kefla or Kale or Caulifla figure from Banpresto or Ichiban Kuji, right? We've only gotten a SH Figure Arts Kefla and I think a Funko Pop of all 3 of them. And like, that's it, which is so crazy. And some minifigures, obviously. And not that much Hit either. Hit only has some minifigures and a SH Figure Arts figure, so kind of wild. So, we will see when obviously the calendar drops what we will be getting in terms of the upcoming prize figures, right? That's how you probably remember me mentioning earlier in this video that Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right? We've known about that figure for a fat minute, and that's because that bad boy was scheduled on the calendar for a really long time now. I swear it's been like 2 or 3 months since they, you know, showed off the calendar of figures and this guy was on it. So hopefully when we see that calendar, we will get to see some very interesting stuff. I won't be making a video on just that, but maybe I'll make a community post about it. And of course, I will include it in the next Dragon Ball figure news video. But with all of that being said, I believe that is everything that I have for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed this sort of return to form. I combined both of those words. For the figure news series. I definitely want to get back on doing this because I really enjoyed doing this series. I honestly do. I was going to say this figure, which I guess is not inaccurate either. But definitely don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Of course, more videos will be coming soon. I have plenty of unboxings and stuff planned. By the way, the last thing that I do want to mention on this video before I dip out is if you guys would like me to start covering some third-party figure news, I would be happy to cover that sort of stuff. I'm talking about things upcoming with Beast Deities, you know, aka Kong Studios, Demoniacal Fit, stuff like that, right? Obviously for the third-party figures that we are kind of getting, because I have been kind of getting into that a lot lately, and obviously I can talk about that in terms of unboxing videos, because obviously I can do an unboxing video on basically any Dragon Ball figure, and, you know, of course, you know, it seems like you guys will like it, which is awesome. But in terms of news, I'm not really sure if it's something that you guys would be interested in, so let me know if you guys would like to see that sort of thing. If you are unfamiliar what I'm talking about, figured I'd just flash it up on the screen right here, right? Stuff like Demoniacal Fit, obviously making third-party SH Figuarts figures, right? Talking about a bunch of stuff on this, right? I basically just include this in news videos, right? Ironically enough, both of these companies, not only Demoniacal Fit, but also Kong, right, have been releasing these Master Jose figures. That's a whole nother topic for another video, but I just kind of wanted to give you an example of what sort of things we would be talking about with this, because obviously these aren't official, but they're still really cool figures. So definitely let me know if you want me to talk about this type of stuff on the channel in these news videos. And the last thing I'll leave you with is we did actually get a little bit of an unboxing for the GT Goku, because he is starting to release in Japan in terms of the SH Figures one. Obviously, we saw this guy a fat minute ago at a convention with the Pan and Trunks from GT as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your love and support. Look forward to more videos on this channel as the years go on. And with all of that being said, I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.